Hello, I'm Lucas Meldon and welcome to That Windsurf Podcast. This is the podcast where we'll have conversations with people in and around the windsurf community. Since a lot of us are stuck at home, I thought I'd bring that beach talk to the comfort of your home. Each episode will have new guests and a general topic. If you don't know me, hello, I'm Lucas. I'm a pretty typical 19-year-old from Brighton, England, except I'm fully addicted to windsurfing. I compete in UK pro events and like everyone, I'm trying to get better and better. I've also got my YouTube channel with this podcast as well as behind the scenes of my windsurfing life and trips, so go check it out and be sure to subscribe. Anyway, enough about me, let's get into the podcast.
You play a bit of guitar, do you?
I ain't using that, I don't.
He just stands there and presses the button all
I
day.
think we'll have to do it again. I've already had a bottle of whiskey. Is that the end?
How's it going, people? Welcome back to That Windsurf Podcast. It turns out people actually quite like the first one, so we're back to continue the series. I'm super excited about this episode. I'm joined by multiple British champion, wave champion, Skye, and probably the biggest name in windsurfing behind the lens, John Carter. Hello, welcome.
How you doing?
I'm here, all good?
Yeah. I guess first things first, obviously we have a bit of a name situation, two Johns here, so I guess you're both cool with Skyboy and JC, is that all right?
Yeah, that's all right. I'm
Yep.
getting a bit old now for Sky Boy, but it's okay. I can do it.
How did you actually come up with that one?
I didn't. I don't even know where it came from. I think Tima actually, but a long time ago when I was actually a boy, and now I should be called like Sky Grandpa or something. I'm getting on a bit.
So obviously we're in this situation with the coronavirus, and everyone's plans are a bit up in the air. So what have you two been getting up to, and how have you been keeping entertained in these times?
Personally, yeah, this would normally be my busiest time of the season. I would have just got back from Hawaii from doing a big photo shoot out there. Plus, a few events normally happen around these times. So it's kind of quite odd for me not to be traveling. So I've been doing that all my life. So I'm at home, just keeping busy, really. I've tidied my office, done all the jobs around the house, and I'm doing a bit of social media stuff for Windsurf magazine. So yeah, the cameras are kind of on hold, but spending a lot of time with the family as well. So that's quite nice. Because normally I'm away 6 months a year, so it's quite nice just to be home. Obviously, it's not the best situation in the world financially or anything, but you just have to deal with that, same as everyone else. We've just got to see what how this all evolves. But you've got to stay positive and do whatever you can do to just get through, until we know what our future holds, basically. Bye, boy.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Spain. I'm in the Canary Islands. So we've been on like a full lockdown for 6 weeks now, maybe a bit longer.
Yeah, longer than that.
And it's been, we're not even allowed out for sport or anything. So to be honest, the first couple of weeks, or maybe even the first month, was actually really nice, because it was just sort of like, I don't know about you guys, but I just seemed to spend the whole time rushing around trying to get this done, that done, and suddenly it was like just had time on my hands, and it was so relaxing and nice. But now I'm definitely getting over it. I need to go out and do something and run around a bit. So it looks like we might be allowed out to do exercise from, I think, Saturday. So looking forward to that, definitely.
You've been doing a bit of skateboarding, I've seen.
Yeah, well, the first 2 weeks, I came back from South Africa, and I self-isolated myself up in my wife's mum's got a house up in the mountains. So I went up there on my own, and it's just like absolutely nothing there, not even like no TV, no internet, and just a skateboard ramp that we built like a year ago. So it was epic, to be honest. I was just there like skating all day, drinking beer, yeah, just doing what I wanted, and then I had to come home. So it was a mixed feeling. It's quite nice it's nice to be home, see the family, but then I definitely missed the sort of the freedom up there, just because they actually had space. I could do what I wanted pretty much. So that's all good. It's all good.
Now you got the wife shouting at you again.
exactly. Yeah, I was like, after a couple of days,
Sorry,
I'm over this. I'm over this. I want to go back up the mountain, but yeah,
she'll send you up there.
Yeah, she almost did. So.
I guess it might actually be you probably will get out before us, and we'll be it'll be summer and we're stuck inside, and Spain and Italy are sort of a bit more frisk because obviously you've been locked down earlier than us.
Yeah, I think that they're talking, it looks like we'll be able to go on the water from Saturday, although it's a bit vague. They've sort of said certain, like you can do sport within 1 kilometre of your house. So I can go surfing within 1 kilometre, but I can't really go windsurfing within 1 kilometre.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, they say that if you're like a sort of a professional athlete, you can go and train. So I could potentially pull that card out, but it's all a bit vague, and you have to see.
I think that's the frustrating thing in the UK anyway. It's that we got this hour of exercise, they say, but it's very vague. And then some other places they put in sort of some pretty concrete rules on what you can and can't do.
I think in Cornwall they're still surfing, right?
Yeah, I mean the whole surfing thing is a bit strange because it all came about when I think it was a police officer that posted something online. The chief police officer said that you can do it. It's a bit weird at the moment, but
yeah, on the Isle of Wight, there were some guys surfing last week, and the police called them out of the water and told them to go home. So yeah, it's different everywhere.
Really?
I heard Newquay and that's packed, but
that seems a bit vague, a bit random. If you can, some place you can do stuff and others.
Anyway.
Hopefully we'll come out of it pretty soon, and everyone will be back to normal.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be too long. So anyway, I sort of want to move on and move into your sort of backstories. Obviously for Skye Boy, how you started windsurfing and your competitions and stuff, and then JC, how you actually got into doing windsurf photography.
Well, I started sailing basically. I live just north of London in Hertfordshire, which is in reality not the best place to windsurf. So I was sort of stuck on a lake pretty much until I learned to drive. So my early windsurfing was all lake based, and obviously like a lot of racing, kind of like longboard racing back then, and a little bit of shortboard racing if it ever got windy, which it rarely did. And then as soon as I learned to drive, I just was driving to the sea all the time. And I don't know, I was always competing, mainly because I started on a lake and it was all about racing. It was sort of like natural there was like the Wednesday night series, which was like the kind of like the lowest level. And then there was like the Sunday racing, which was the next step up. And then there was like the regional longboard series, which was the LBS, I don't know, London kind of circuit. Then there was the national. So I sort of just followed this sort of line of racing. So it was always sort of like competing. And then when I learned to drive, and I was just wave sailing the whole time, or trying to wave sail. And then I went to uni, and again, I was just wave sailing down in Southampton. And then sort of when I came out of that, kind of the competition thing was sort of like naturally sort of pulling me. And so I just sort of followed, and just little by little went up all the steps, like I did the amateur series in the UK, and ended up winning that in, I think, slalom, wave, and I think freestyle. If it was around about then was when freestyle was starting, and then went on to the national, and then PWA, and then the rest is just sort of like following step by step all the way up, like rung by rung. But it's very different from when you see some of like a kid like Ricardo. Like my first PWA event was actually the same as Ricardo's. And me, I'd done years of like steps to get there, and he had basically just come straight from Margarita and annihilated everyone. So it's like a very different route to the same place, but yeah, I got there in the end.
How old were you when you did your first PWA?
I was pretty old, really. I think I did one island event. I think probably when I was about 22 or 23, but I think I first started properly doing the PWA, I think at 24, maybe 23, 24. Yeah, so it was really, really late compared with a lot of guys. And like I came along, and I think luckily, like I looked really young. So even though I was 24, like I kind of looked the same age as like Swifty and Ricardo and Cowley, that were all sort of coming along at the same time. And I kind of just got like grouped with them, which was like sort of put me in like, this is the new generation of guys. And I think I'm like maybe one 1 or 2 years younger than, say, Kevin Pritchard. But somehow he was like the older generation, and I was like with all the kids coming up. Yeah.
And then so you moved to Gran Canaria.
Sort of, well, I think for me, like living, because I grew up, like I say, like north of London, I kind of knew that I never wanted to ever live there. So I was always, when I was traveling, I was always kind of like, had one eye open looking like, could I live here? Could I live there? And like, for example, in Australia, it was like quite nice, but and Maui, I love Maui, but it was so far away from home. And then after uni, I spent 1 year living in Fuerteventura, and I really, really liked it, but it was just a little bit too kind of slow, and I don't know, after coming from England, it's just like everything was just a bit too slow for me.
Desert, isn't it?
Yeah, more than that, it's just like the way of life and the attitude of the people. It's like super laid back, which is great when you're on holiday. It's like still one of my favorite places to go, but like when you're actually living there, it kind of drove me a bit, kind of like got a bit frustrated. And then I met my wife, and she was from Gran Canaria, and I started spending time here, and it's just really nice because it's very, you know, it's a very near to home or close to home. I can get back almost within 24 hours for hardly any money if I need to. And then we have really good wind, really good waves. It's like nice temperature all year round. It's got a little bit of a season to make it hot and cold, which I quite like. But basically, it's just really nice here and quite cheap. And yeah, so I think I've been with my wife now for 17 years or something. So probably sort of spending a lot of time here since about 15 years ago, and sort of, you know, how it is, like slowly sort of moving here bit by bit and spending more time here until, like I say, I was living here.
Cool. Yeah. When was the last time you were in the UK?
I was back in October, I think.
You met up with me, didn't you?
Yeah, I did actually. We had a good. Ended up going to, where did we go? Shoreham with Nick Baker. So that was quite nice.
Oh, okay.
I do actually. I really, really miss it. I used to spend, because before, like living here, like to travel anywhere, it's nearly always cheaper and easier to go through the UK. So I'd always fly to the UK, see my folks, have a couple of days there, and then fly direct to Cape Town or fly direct to Maui or China or wherever I had to go. But then since the kids came along, it's kind of like now the biggest factor is just time away from family. So now, rather than go through England, which would always take a little bit more time, I always just end up flying kind of direct, which means I miss a lot of the kind of the UK time. So I used to always have a few days here and there and get the odd session, and you know, I'd come back from Maui, and if there was a good forecast, stay a few days and do a trip or something. And now I kind of miss that a bit, but you can't have it all. So
oh well, you live in paradise for windsurfers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then you've got into the sort of R&D sort of developing and testing sales. How did that come about?
I started like almost exactly 10 years ago. Roberto, I was on R&D boards, and at the time Nash Sales, and then Roberto really wanted someone to come and ride on his sales and start to work a bit on them. And I'd done a pretty good job with him just with the boards. He was pretty happy with what I was doing. So he really sort of was really pushing to get me on the sales. And I joined originally just to kind of like test and help develop, and, you know, just move the gear forward a little bit. And then that went really, really well. And after 3 years, he was just like, you know, like, we really need someone like designing full time for RRD. Would you be up for basically learning the trade and doing it? And at the time, we were having our sales designed by Thomas Pearson from Simmer. And so Thomas kind of like took me under his wing and kind of basically gave me like an apprenticeship for sort of about 3 years. And slowly it worked from, you know, in the beginning, just testing and saying, oh, I want more power, I want this, or I want that, to then me telling him like, I want more power, so I'm going to do this. And he would say, yeah, but maybe try, if you do that, maybe this will happen. And then in the end, I was doing it all myself, and then just passing it by him, until in the end, I was just doing it all on my own anyway. So, and yeah, it's been really, really good. I absolutely love it. And yeah, it's just great to just sort of keep pushing the gear and trying to make it better all the time. And I get to go sailing a lot, and I get a good mix of sailing as well, which is something I've always really enjoyed. You know, like a good mix of, you know, a bit of slalom one day, some waves, some free ride stuff, foiling, and just really mixing it up and get to test everything and try everything and just keep moving everything forward. So it's good. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it must be sort of quite rewarding, like when you can take some kit out and then fix it a bit, and then it's, you know, better the next time. It must be quite cool to.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think that the most, like, the novelty's worn off a little bit now, but like in the beginning, when kind of you work so much on a sail and then you suddenly see it in production and you see someone else on it that's bought it, and it's just like, wow, you know, like I kind of made that, and like so yeah, it's pretty satisfying. So
Sweet. JC, how did you start your windsurf photography career?
Oh, that goes back a long way. How old are you, Lucas?
I'm 19.
19. So what year were you born?
2000 exactly.
Okay. So yeah, my first trip to Australia was 1986. So that was 14 years before you were born. One of my best friends, he was like British wave sailing champion at the time. His name was Nigel Howe, so you might not have heard of him. But
when I was growing up, he was one of the ones to look up to. Like,
yeah, he was around the time of Duncan Coombs, the PWA head judge. And at the time, Nigel worked in the bank. We both left school. I worked in the post office. And Nigel heard one of his friends had been out to Geraldton the year before in Australia. And he decided he was going to quit his job and head out to Australia for 6 months to windsurf. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to let my best mate go off to Australia for 6 months while I'm stuck in the post office. So I handed in my notice, bought a ticket to Australia, the cheapest airline possible. And yeah, we arrived in Perth one sort of October morning or whenever it was, bought a car straight from the airport, drove. I had no idea where we were going, and we drove straight to Geraldton, and I ended up staying there for 6 months through a whole Australian winter. And yeah, during that time, I didn't even take a camera with me, but obviously there wasn't much to do up there, and I started taking pictures of my friend Nigel, and you know, I had no clue what I was doing. The next year he went off to Maui, and he managed to blag me his sponsor. At that time there was quite a bit of money around, and he managed to blag his sponsors to pay for me to go with him, even though I still knew nothing about it. So I went out to Hawaii, and I ended up staying there for 6 months again, and kind of slowly learned, you know, how to take better shots through trial and error. But all I had was a water house, and I didn't even have a big lens. I was just, if it was too big, I couldn't even shoot really. I was kind of stuck on the beach. But yeah, I was just swimming around at Hookeeper or Spreckersville, taking shots, slowly learning. And then probably over the next 10 years, I kind of gradually, you know, you can't just come into windsurfing photography and go straight to the top. I gradually sort of learned how to take better shots, saved up for equipment, learned off the other photographers. It was a big scene back then in the sort of 90s. There was all the top guys out there, and they were doing these massive photo shoots. I was just like the grommet on the beach, kind of swimming around, but you always saw helicopters flying around and Robbie Nash doing all these shoots. And yeah, luckily, you know, after about 10 years of kind of plugging away, I managed to get my foot in the door for a few things, and it's kind of slowly grown from there. Obviously I've been doing it for 30 years now, so it's quite a long career. Probably been making a living out of it since the year 2000. It took about 10 years probably to build up where I could, you know, the first few years in Hawaii, I was digging holes, washing dishes in Charlie's restaurant, just doing all sorts of odd jobs just to sort of pay my way. But then after maybe 10 years, I was starting to get a few jobs, guys like Starboard or anyone just hiring me for the day. And yeah, here I am now. Luckily,
didn't you miss out a bit of that story? What, in Australia, weren't you a rock star at one point?
oh yeah, yeah. In 1987, I was in Geraldton, and I walked into a second-hand shop, and there was a guitar on the wall, and I picked it up, and I was like strumming a bit, and the guy in there, he goes, "Ah, mate, you play a bit of guitar, do you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can play." And he goes, "You want to be in a band?" And like, literally 3 nights later, I was playing in like the Tarcoola Tavern in Geraldton, and I ended up playing in a band there for like 3 months, like 4 nights a week. On New Year's Eve, we played in front of 2,000 people, supporting this band called the Easy Beats, which were around during the 60s. That was my biggest gig ever, but that's just another string to my bow. So I'm still available for rock concerts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just going back a little bit. So when you were starting at the beginning, were you doing like sort of mainly water shots?
Yeah, I had a homemade housing. Back in those days, that was before digital. So we were using like slide film and manual focus cameras, which had a roll of 36 shots. So when you swam out in the water, like nowadays, you've got like a memory card that's got 2,000 pictures on it. Back then, you had 36 pictures. So
Right.
you had to be a lot more picky with what you took. But, you know, when I first started, I had no clue what I was doing. I went out at Keeper and just people were coming by me and I was just clicking away at anything. But obviously, you know, like films cost $20 a roll. So you don't want to waste money on rubbish shots. So you soon get a bit more choosy what you're shooting. I think there was an event in about 1993, something like that. And I was out at Keeper as the Aloha Classic. And I'd swum out for the semi-finals and I had my manual focus camera. I used to pre-focus it to a distance of about 4 or 5 yards. So the sailors had to come in that area for it to be in focus. I had a little bit of leeway, but it just happened. I just happened to be in the right spot. And like Robbie Nash did this massive aerial right in front of me. And on the other side, Polakow did an aerial coming towards me. Someone else did something. And this one roll of film, I had like my best shots I'd ever taken. And I sold one of the pictures to Gastra. I think Robbie Nash had just taken over as a director at the time. I think I sold it for like $1,000 or something, which was, for me, that was like, oh my God. That was my biggest selling shot by far at the time, but it kind of gave me a bit of hope that maybe, you know, there's maybe a living to be made out of it. But with windsurfing photography, it's not really a thing you're doing for money. You do it because you enjoy it. You like seeing the shots. You know, it's a passion thing. You know, all the other photographers, you know, obviously you're trying to make a bit of money, but you know, the satisfaction of capturing good shots, swimming out and doing all that sort of thing is kind of why you do it. Obviously, you know, it becomes a business eventually, but yeah, when you're starting, you're just trying to take your best shots, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent a lot of time in the water until I could afford a big lens, which I think that was about 1999. I spent $7,600 on a Canon 600. It was like the best lens you could buy. I used it for about a year at Keeper. And, you know, then on the big days, you could take just as good shots as anyone else. And I think it was in 1999, I was shooting, I think it was Nick Baker, Danny Seals, and Ant Baker down at Spreckersville. And I had all my equipment in the back of the car on the beach. When I swam in, the car was gone.
No.
I was like, I think some of my mates must have played a prank on me because I'd hidden the keys in the petrol cap. And, you know, I asked around and everyone was like, no, we haven't taken your car. And so I phoned up the police. Police came along. And it turned out that, you know, some locals had seen me where I put the car, keys in the glove box, in the petrol cap. And they'd driven off, nicked everything I owned and left the car in the cane fields. And I was flying home from Maui the next day, so I was basically, all I had was the wetsuit I was wearing, my water housing with that one roll of film, and nothing else.
No.
I had my passport in the apartment, but I'd lost all my camera gear basically.
Is that the
So
same
that was
film with the epic shot on it, or no?
No.
Okay.
Luckily not. But yeah, that was a big blow. That was in 1999. So I basically had to start all over again then and save up from scratch. I didn't really have any money and buy all that stuff, over the next few years. So.
Did it actually, out of interest, did it actually help you because you like upgraded the stuff at the same time, or?
No, I had the best stuff. Yeah, it was a disaster.
Totally screwed you. Yeah.
I actually cried on the way home on the plane. I was sat there sniffling away. But, you have to bounce back. So I kind of slowly saved up again and, replaced all the equipment, which, wasn't a nice experience for sure. But
That's tough, that.
it was tough.
Oh, man. I guess sort of later on, you do a lot of stuff with the Windsurf mag. What's your position there?
I've been working for Windsurf UK since about the year 2000 full time as like a roving reporter.
Yeah.
Finn Mullin is the editor. He's Timo Mullin's brother, who was on the podcast last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of gather stories for the magazine wherever I am. Sometimes it's UK storms, or it's at events, or if I'm in Hawaii, I'll go and interview Robbie Nash or whoever. And that's kind of been my role. So I'm always on the lookout for a good story. You live in Brighton, don't you, Lucas?
Yeah.
Somewhere down there. I've shot Nick Baker in front of the pier or anything like that, just something interesting for the magazine. So, that's my kind of role with Windsurf.
Yeah. I guess over the years, you've probably found there's been a sort of the evolution from the magazine to the online, isn't there?
Yeah, obviously there's been big changes. Yeah, there was the days where you used to shoot film, which was, a roll of slides and you have to send them off all over the world to magazines, to the digital era. And
actually, I've got to say, for me, that's where I think you made your biggest. You were one of the early adopters, no, of the digital. That's what that from my recollection from the other side of it. I remember working with some of at the time the great photographers, and they were still using film, and it was such a ball ache. And then there was you that had like mastered the digital much better than everyone else. And that for me, that's where you killed it. And
I'm not the master of technology, but I did get into the digital side fairly early on, and especially because I worked for the PWA, that was kind of a necessary sort of way of doing events, is getting the pictures up every day. Whereas before that, when I was working for the PWA, I'd go to an event in 1995 and they'd give you 25 rolls of film, and that had to last you the whole week to shoot the event. And then you had no idea how to kind of budget that film out. So it might be an epic day the last day and you've shot all your rolls on the first day. It was really weird. Whereas these days, if it's the epic days on the last day of an event with digital, you can just bust out 5,000 pictures or whatever and, start again. But, before that, it was slide films, which you had, you only got given so many rolls. But, so the magazine and photography's changed because everything's like now, people want to see events, almost straight away. The galleries in the evening, the write-up of it all. So the magazines have got to find a new slot, to work in that environment because, it's old news. If, used to be the PWA went to Baja in 1995 and you used to wait for the mag. You used to go to the WH Smiths every day when the new issue came through and you were super excited to see the first time you'd ever seen the pictures. But nowadays, everyone's seen it. So the magazine's got to work differently and kind of get a fresh angle. So that's part of the other half of my job is actually doing the events and photo shoots or whatever, but then looking for interesting stories or different angles for the magazine side. So that's the sort of the modern way of doing things, I guess.
Yeah. I think the coolest things about the mags are the trips you do that obviously we spoke about last week with Tim and Ross, and I'm sure Skye was being on a few, and that's always cool to open up the mag and see an awesome shot of some place somewhere off in Scotland or wherever it may be.
Yeah, they're the original things you do, which no one else has ever seen.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff I do for the magazine, I make sure it's not online. I try and tell the sailors to, if you do put a picture up, just like a little sort of rubbish one or like a sneaky little preview, and then you can come out with something in the magazine that's super, people want to buy the issue for.
And how much time do you spend like editing the photos? Could you edit photos back in the day, or was it just?
No, obviously when you got the slides back, if you'd messed up the exposure on the camera, then that's it. You've ruined the shot. There's no going back. So if you messed up say you were in a helicopter and you had the wrong exposure, you get that roll of film back and they're all black. There's no way of pulling that back with the slides. I always remember the first PWA event I did. The guys gave me 30 rolls of film. And I was like, if I mess this up, I didn't even get the films back. They went straight off to the PBA offices or whatever. So they see your work unedited or you haven't got time to straighten up a horizon or anything like that.
Yeah.
You are really under the cosh. You're under pressure because you just give them the films and they see what you can do or what you've done. And if you've messed it up, you basically balls up the whole event, or the photos from it at least. So that's kind of was quite pressure. Whereas these days, Photoshop, you can save shots because that's the luxury of digital. But you can also, if you shoot in RAW, you can save the shots if they're slightly over or underexposed, or if you've got a wonky horizon for half the shots, or you've got a bit of dust on the sensor, you can get rid of all that stuff and make it look. You can make a bad shot look quite good with a bit of photoshopping, put it like that. But personally, the editing sides, it's not so much fun. Like in the old days, I could go and shoot like a photo shoot. I could shoot 10 rolls of slide film. I just have to go and drop it off at the developing place and then go and have beers. But these days I'm at a photo shoot. I shoot 3,000 shots in a day. I've then got to go home that night and try and keep on top of all the editing, which builds up. So if I then say I just went out for dinner and left it, and then shot another 3,000 shots the next day, then I've got a mountain of 6,000 shots to edit, which can build up into a horrific, amount of work you can imagine. So I try to work every night on any job I do and edit everything as I go. I just don't want to build it up for the next day. I don't want to wake up the next morning and think, oh no, I've still got 3,000 pictures from yesterday because I couldn't be bothered. I always try and I'm quite often sitting up till 2 a.m, just editing everything so I can tick off that day, move on, start the next day fresh. Yeah, that's
I can vouch for him on that. I've spent enough photo shoots in various times, and he is literally working. He'll shoot all day, and then when all the riders are they're cracking open the beers and having a good time, he's there still cracking open the beers, but with the laptop open, just edit until he passes out, and then repeat. It's pretty impressive work ethic.
But as a photographer or video guys, we have to charge the batteries in the evening, get all the memory cards onto the computer, do the editing. That's quite a long process if you've been shooting all day. Then be ready to go the next morning. I can't just have everything lying around. But you kind of got to be ready always for the next move. The worst thing is all the riders are out there and you're not ready. You're kind of fiddling around in the car trying to sort out some sort of broken thing or whatever. It's kind of almost a 24/7 operation with the editing, just keeping on top of everything. I usually get up early as well. If we're not shooting, I'll wake up super early, carry on editing. So any shoot I'm at that's say it's a proper photo shoot, I'm either editing or shooting and then kind of eating while I'm editing or drinking beer while I'm editing. I try and just work the whole time.
Don't you?
I obviously get through beer. It helps me get through. Drinking beer helps me get through it, especially at PWA events where I'm quite often sat there with Chris Yates, the press guy 11 or 12 at night and we're still working, but we've usually got like 10 empty beer bottles by the side of us, which probably slows us down, but it keeps us sane. I'm not advising it, but that's my way of getting through.
What would you say for the sort of photographer groms out there? Like, where would you start? What gear would you buy first?
Obviously, these days, all the cameras are getting better and better. And there's now a kind of balance between video and stills photography. You know, for not too much money, well, depending on your budget, but like for a few thousand, you can get a basic setup that will get you by. Obviously, you know, the experienced photographers, windsurfing guys out there, like Simon Crowther, Jerome Houvet, Eric Ader, all the other guys, you know, they've got tens of thousands worth of camera gear. So it's quite hard to compete with them because they've got all the best stuff already. If you've just got the basics, it's enough to do the job. But, you know, if you want to reach the top, you kind of need to have all the gear, all the water housings, a drone probably, you know, the big lens, which is like up to 10 grand. You know, there's lots of stuff to buy. But like you can also get a basic Canon 100 to 400 lens, which is great, for about 1,500, maybe a body for 1,000 and another couple of lens. It all costs money. You know, obviously if you want to be good, you need the best equipment and, you know, you need to spend money. You can't do it on a cheap budget really. Plus there's not so many jobs out there. No. So it's a pretty tough market to break into really. 6 or 7 full-time windsurf photographers in the world. Then there's a bunch of other guys that are local that make bits of money.
Yeah, I guess it's the same. It's the same with like being a windsurfer. You got to do it for the fun of it and not think of it as a career because it's such a hard career to do.
Yeah, that's how most of us all got involved, just because we were kind of passionate. We liked swimming out, heatkeeper, taking the water shots, and enjoy getting a good photo. I've had 30 years of traveling around the world taking photographs of windsurfing. I can't really complain about that. I enjoy it. I've been very lucky.
Now the idea of the podcast is to have a sort of new topic each episode, and this episode we're talking about photo shoots. At the moment, obviously, this would normally be the time of photo shoots, so I thought it'd be quite an appropriate topic. And I guess to start with, is like if I was a brand and I wanted to do a photo shoot, like where do you start with it? Where do you go? When do you go? Who do you go with? How many people and all this stuff?
From my side, I've kind of been involved like a little bit in the organisation of them. I've been involved in them from all different angles, but more recently, sort of from the kind of organising angle a little bit. And the main thing is like when's the gear ready, and that's why it's all, you know, most gear is launched kind of around about July each year, so therefore it needs to be shot about sort of 3 months ahead, and so that's why more or less most of the shoots take place in sort of March, April time, and then it's a case of where's good in March and April, and pretty much that's Maui. Maui for me is one of the best places. We've been shooting a lot in South Africa, which is great as well, but it means you have to have everything done a little bit earlier. So we have to have everything ready kind of around January, February time. And then on top of that, you need who's going to be there and who's going to take the photos.
Yeah, how many people do you reckon like the whole operation is?
It really depends, you know. I've been on, you know, some of the early days when we did like the F2 shoots. I mean, I did an F2 shoot with JC on the Itoma boat, and I don't know what the budget must have been for that, but it must have been crazy. We rented a boat. We had, I think, probably about 10 riders. We had JC there. We had a video guy there. We had the marketing manager there. We had everything, and we were a week or 10 days. I can't remember, but you know, a long time on this boat. So that's obviously like a, you know, what I would call definitely a high budget one. And then you can also do them pretty low key. Like I've done a couple of shoots where we just got like a couple of products to shoot. And, you know, I've flown out to Maui with one rider and 4 boards and a couple of sails. And just like JC's rented a helicopter for an afternoon. You go like bang, 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 and you get it done. So it all changes, but mostly it just comes down to how much money you've got in your pocket, I think.
Yeah. I get there's a few brands, like the bigger brands anyway, they sort of rent a house, don't they? Or I don't know how it works with RD, but they sort of get everyone together and get all the kit together, all the different riders.
Like
try and do it
back in the day, some of the starboard shoots that JC did back in the day,
I can tell you,
ridiculous. They had like 3 houses, like 50 riders. I was like,
I remember. Yeah, I remember. I think it was about the year 2002, around that area. They did a starboard shoot in Maui, and I think they had 60 riders. Yeah, we couldn't find anywhere to meet for the first sort of introduction meeting because there was so many people. They couldn't come around to the house they'd rented. So we had to meet in Mama's Fish House car park, just near Hukipa. And there was 60 riders, 2 photographers, a couple of video guys, all the guys from the starboard head offices. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my God, this is just the most monumental task ever. And they were giving out piles of stickers, T-shirts, all this stuff to all the guys. And then obviously each day you organise these people, there's got to be some sort of message that goes out in the morning to 60 different people of, where you're going to meet or, what the plan is. Obviously, you can't just have 60 guys rock up at a beach and who keep it. You just, obviously you have to divide it into the different sections of the shoot, like the wave guys or the free ride guys or whatever. They quite often just keep inviting extras, and you turn up and there'd be like, oh, blimey, I've got 30 guys here. And it makes your life quite difficult trying to organise.
I was going to say, I remember seeing you at Baby Beach in Maui, which is like a tiny little beach, and it's like amazing jumping. If you got you need 2 or 3 guys, it's probably the most efficient.
Yeah, maybe 4.
Maybe 4. And they're there, and you got I think you had Levi on starboard there, and he's like, you got Levi and Boujma, who are the guys that are going to do the sick jumping shots. And then there was suddenly 40 guys on the water with guys doing forwards on Formula boards and just absolute carnage. And I can imagine you just crying on the beach.
Again, funnily enough, at those times there was a 12 or 13-year-old Philip Costa sent out there, amongst those guys, which at the time you didn't know he was going to be multiple world champion. But it just shows starboard kind of sometimes the way they threw everything in the pot. It sometimes came out with some quite good results. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. Everyone used to laugh at starboard sometimes because everyone was out every time, but it's kind of just the way they rolled.
So in an ideal world, you take turns with the riders, I guess?
No, as time, it was just carnage, wasn't it?
As time goes on, most companies, for instance, Fanatic or Gastra or whatever, they're very efficient. They know what needs to be done. They know they can just send out the best guys to do the stuff. If you're doing a wave shoot at Hukipa, you send out, if you're Fanatic, you send out Victor, Adam Lewis, Mark Paré, the top guys, and you get the shots. You don't send out all the racers in between, flying around while you're trying to get the wave shots. They know what to do these days. So it's a bit more organised. But it could be chaos back in the day. Obviously, Hawaii, everyone thinks blue sky, perfect trades every day. But that place can rain like no tomorrow, and it can come out of nowhere. Driving rain, the wind's all gone, and you're in the middle of say you've rented out a helicopter for $1,000 an hour. Now what do? Do you wait around? Hopefully the rain will clear, or there's all these decisions to be made. All these other factors come in, let alone the wind dropping, it getting too busy, or maybe another shoot will turn up where you've planned to shoot. It's all kind of chaos on the water. Maybe 10 years ago, an epic wave day at Hukipa, you could have 5 shoots going on. You could have about 5 photographers in the water, helicopters, 2 helicopters in the air.
And people trying helicopters as well.
They were battling for the sky. I remember being told I was going to get flown out of the sky if I went up in a helicopter during someone else's shoot or something. And it was just everyone calls it the circus, and that, you know, that's why some companies have branched out. For instance, RRD go to Cape Town, Starboard and Severn have been doing their shoots in Australia, and they can go somewhere totally on their own. And Australia is a lot less likely for it to rain, same as Cape Town. You get, if it's blue sky and windy, you kind of got 10 hours of that, and they can go to
I've got
beach.
to say, like for me, like Maui, like you say, it rains a lot, but then when the sun does come out, it's the most efficient place you can. I remember I've done a shoot there before where it was like literally it was just the worst weather. We had 2 weeks of rain, and then more or less in one day with sun, you got a whole photo shoot done. Whereas Cape Town, there's a lot more driving around, and it's kind of like a slightly different vibe. You need a bit more time, I think. But like you say, you have different problems. You don't have problems with people fighting over helicopters, but yeah, just finding the right day, the right place to be, and all of that stuff. It's like that's the skill there.
Yeah, Maui's very, very efficient. Like from Hukipa down to Kanaha, it's probably about 10 miles or something. And in between that, you've got your wave spot, you've got Spreckersville for jumping, you've got Kanaha for free ride. And if it's raining there, you can quite often go to Kihei, which is only another 5-10 minutes drive. That's always sunny and windy. I don't think I've ever had a shoot where you've not actually got it done in Hawaii, which is pretty amazing, really. Yeah, Australia is a whole nother ball game. You know, those guys don't mind driving out there, and you know, for instance, from Nalu all the way to Esperance, you're talking 2 days of driving or something crazy. You can probably do it in a day.
The shoot we did in Oz, we did like, I think it was 5,000 kilometers in 10 days, wasn't it, JC?
Yeah, I think we had 7 vehicles, and they all did 5,000 or 6,000 kilometers. And if you add that all up, it equates to driving around the world. I worked it out at the time. If you put it all back to back, but like it might be windy in Geraldton one day, and then that pattern finishes, and then you maybe have to drive right down south, which is maybe 1,000 k's, which is, you know, if you've got a week shoot, that means you can't really afford to drive during the day. So you maybe have to drive at night to get to the next place to start shooting the next day. So that becomes, you know, quite hard work.
Yeah. How long are the shoots normally? Are they week, 2 weeks?
I'd say at the most they're about 2 weeks, but generally, you know, a normal shoot's probably about a week. Well, for instance, I think this year in Cape Town, RRD's was a month.
Yeah, it was long, I remember.
But they divided it into kiting and windsurfing. So the windsurfing was the first half, and the kiting was second half.
I think you need more time. For me, you need more time in Cape Town. Like in Maui, I think 10 days is a pretty long time in Maui, but I think in Cape Town, like you need sort of 2 weeks to just because you've got to move around a bit, and there's always a few days where the wind doesn't blow. And
like you were asking at the beginning, Lucas, the logistics. Say you're flying out to Hawaii for a week. You know, you've got to fly out, maybe all the riders, the designer, the marketing guy, probably 2 videographers, a photographer, pay for houses for them. It's quite a lot of money at stake for this 1 week. And obviously, you know, as a photographer, that's your kind of responsibility, is to try and do your best for these guys. You can't afford to waste any time of that week. Also, you know, getting the riders to the beach on time is great when everyone's on the same page and they understand what the brand are trying to do and get all their images and all that stuff. But quite often, you know, if you let guys go off for lunch, they don't come back. Or, you know, they say, I'll be back at 2, they turn up at 2:30 or whatever. So, you know, you have to get lunch for them at the beach to kind of keep them there, to keep the shoot rolling. But
I guess it's a lot of money down the drain if it goes wrong or all these things happen.
It could be a catastrophe.
Yeah.
If you've paid all that money for a week in Hawaii, for a house, you know, cars, flying out some riders, getting the gear there, all that, effort and logistics, and then you get a duff forecast where there's no wind, or there's one day or something.
Any photo shoot disasters?
Yes, lots. Where do I start? In an ideal world, every day you wake up on a photo shoot, it's perfect blue sky. Say you're in Hawaii, trade winds, the waves you want, or the nice flat water you want. Everything's there, and you just got a small group of people. You go and do the shots. Everything goes smooth. Someone brings you your lunch, and you carry on shooting. Do some lifestyle in the evening, go home, edit, drink your beers. That's a good day. 9 times out of 10, it just doesn't work out like that. You only get one chance to shoot certain things, but things go wrong. Your cameras break down. You mess up with a memory card, or anything can go wrong. So you're kind of under pressure and trying to think all the time. Am I doing this right? Have I got my water housing set up right? I can't afford for this to leak, or anything like that. I've had loads and loads of disasters, though. I could write a book about them. I've had some good ones with Bjorn Dunkerbeck. Not necessarily shooting. Like, we were on a boat in Australia, and we'd had a pretty good day. We'd hired out this massive, 60-foot boat to go to Rottnest Island. At the end of the day, the sun went down. Bjorn was flying in front of the boat. And I got some nice shots of the flash. And everyone got back on the boat. And Bjorn, he looked round to me and he said, "Tonight we drink." And I was like, oh God, don't like the sound of this. So, the beers came out. Ben Severn, he's not shy of a few beers, nor Scotty McKirchie was on there. So we all kind of drunk loads of beer, and it was kind of good fun night on the boat, but definitely too much was consumed. I didn't do any editing. Anyway, in the morning, I got up out of the cabin, and I'm like, I needed to have a quick wee over the side of the boat. So I was walking up to the front, and I trod on this board bag, and I heard this "Ugh, ugh," and the zip opened, and it was Dunkerbeck inside. I just trod on his head. So if you've ever seen Dunkerbeck's eyes when they're kind of in the laser mode, he definitely wasn't happy with me at that time.
Guy boy, any disaster?
Yeah, from a sailor point of view, I remember one of my early F2 shoots, and at the time I was a rookie, and all you're trying to do is just impress and do the in those days you're just trying to do the craziest shot or everything. And they gave me the brand new board, and I went out hookeeper and went pretty much straight on the rocks. And I've been on the rocks a lot of times, but this time I just saw the board get launched into a rock and snapped the nose and tail clean. It was absolute right off of a board. And then you have to come in, and you got back then you always had the marketing manager waiting on the beach, and you're there just scraping the bits of gear off, all brand new, and have to sort of go back and go and if you're lucky they give you another one and you go and do it again. But there's lots like that. And then from an organisation point of view, I think for me the heli shoots, they're so stressful. I mean, you sort of organise it all really carefully, 2-minute section. Okay, right, first is this guy on this board with this sail, then the other guy comes in, and when it all goes according to plan, it's so satisfying because you just nail it, and you have the best stuff, and it's pretty much in 1 hour you got the shoot done. And then when it goes wrong, it just kind of spirals out of control. And we had one, well actually I think JC was shooting it when last time we were in Maui with RRD, and we had this whole plan, this guy, then this guy joins this, and then a couple of the guys just started just sailing off downwind, and they just disappeared, and then it all and then they couldn't get back. They were supposed to come in and change their gear and go back out again, but they weren't there. So then we carried on sailing, and then the guy on the beach had the full list of all the order on his phone, and he had gone in the water. The phone had then locked itself, but no one knew the password to get it open. So no one knew the order. No one, like half the guys were like downwind, and then you're just like out on the water, just stressing. And then JC's obviously up in the chopper, like looking down. He's got no idea what's going on. He just carries on shooting, and then then just like I say, the whole thing just spirals out of control, and then it's just a mess at the end.
Yeah, luckily technology's got a bit better. We now have phones in the helicopter normally, so someone can send us a message, or I can send a message, say that guy's run was a load of rubbish. Can you do it again later on? Or also, like about 3 years ago, I was up in a helicopter with Jamie Hancock shooting Gastra, and we were out at Lanes shooting Thomas Traversa and Ross and a few other guys, and I was quite kind of happy with the angle we were shooting. We're getting these classic shots, but Jamie's like super keen on the video, and he kind of wanted the guy to start flying backwards and doing some funky stuff. So the helicopter guy started flying backwards, which was kind of a bit weird for him because the wind was blowing the wrong way into the heli or whatever. And all of a sudden, we just started spiraling out of control, and the helicopter was going down to the water. Like, I was just like, we are going in. And like, I looked out of the side of the helicopter, and the tail was touching the water. We were that low. The guy was like a maverick pilot, just hanging onto the control. We were just like, oh my God, we're going in. And suddenly he just managed to like grab a hold of it, and the helicopter just rose up slowly. And my heart was just going like 100 miles an hour. And I looked around to Jamie, and he was just like bright red, just like his eyes were like bulging open. We were just, oh my God. And the pilot goes, sorry. I got some sort of vortex on me or something like this. And we flew up to about 500 feet and just sat there for like a minute and just getting our sort of heart rates down. And we actually were halfway through the shoot, and then we had to go and carry on and do it again. But it was that was a scary moment. It's a high pressure week for everyone, really. Even the riders are kind of under pressure. Yeah, the wave sailors, like the video guys, want them to make their moves. They don't want them to almost do a 360 because that's kind of...
Yeah, I guess you get that on the picture, but then the video, then...
Yeah, the video is kind of tough. You know, there's different... for a photo, you can get a guy in a mega tweaked air. That could be the shot of the shoot, but maybe then crashes and wrecks everything, and it's for the video guy, it's not the same thing.
As a rider, I hate, like, I'd much rather split them, but it's impossible to ever do it. But like, if you know that there's someone just shooting stills, you can just go like crazy and just go massive and get in the most contorted twig position you can. But then if they're videoing, you need to kind of like pull it back a little bit, because like you said, like JC says, if you don't land it, it's kind of pretty useless. So I know, like, you know, we were working with Jamie Hancock this year, and he's amazing at it. But he'd get, because I'm a good friend with him, he'll be like brutally honest and just go like, fucking idiot, like you had the sick wave, you did all that, and then you messed it up at the end, you did this and made it would have been the best shot of the thing, and like, why the fuck did you try that? And you're like, oh sorry.
I guess there's quite a lot of pressure for, like, especially like maybe the younger guys who sort of join a big brand and then you go to shoot, and all these photographers and
I think for me it's like it's much less stressful when I think when you come along, you're just like, you're so just desperate to do everything in a way and just like go crazy and whatever. Like, my first shoot, I remember going there and we got to keep it. It was like perfect 4/7 weather, like logo to mast high, like the best day ever. And there was like Levi there at the time, and they give him like the super new waveboard with the best sail. And then Peter Volwart comes along and they give him the super waveboard, the next size up. And then there was Ponch, and I was like right at the back of the queue. And by the time I got there, they give me some free ride board and like a sail that was about a meter too big. And I'm just like, at the time, I'm just like, yeah, no problem. I'm like going there, just killing myself on this free ride board, just trying to do massive jumps and all the rest of it, but happy as Larry. Now I'm a bit older, I'll be like, I ain't taking that. but yeah, it's a different thing. I think when you're young, you just like go for it and you don't care, and I don't think you feel the pressure so much. You're just trying to get a good shot. And then when you realize kind of a bit later, like what's at stake, and you know, if you mess this up, like, oh, it's a nightmare, then the pressure gets a bit more, I think.
Going back to what you said, is there like there's a certain amount of kit, and sort of the better riders get the better kit, or how does that work?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like still now there's like not everyone's fighting over it, but there'll be the best thing is if you got like a good mix of riders. Like this year was really nice because we had like most of the guys were really small, so they all take the small stuff, and I could pretty much pick what I wanted. But like, you know, in the old days, it'd be when it was like myself, Andrea Rosati, and Flo Young. We're all pretty much the same weight, and somehow I'd always end up on like a massive board, and you know, it's like perfect conditions in Cape Town. It's super windy, and I'm on like a 96-litre wave board trying to make it look good while they're on their perfect little board ripping it up. So there's always a bit of a fight, but
it's like the football changing room at school. Like everyone wants a number 10 shirt or whatever, I guess.
yeah. It's more than that, because like, you know that if you're, you know, if it's this classic day, like I know for me, my best board, I'd want to be on something like a 85 litre would be perfect. And if you end up on something tiny or something massive, you're just kind of struggling, and you're like, I wish I had the better board or this and that.
I guess, well, not all the riders, but a lot of them have custom boards, and then they sort of have to go to the photo shoot and sort of ride a completely new board at the factory or whatever. Is that quite hard to do as well?
Yeah, well, there's some story. I won't say who, but there's some people like
I've heard that story too.
Certain people, like, you know, they used to ripping up her keeper on their custom board, and then they turn up at a photo shoot, and they give them like a board that's 10 litres bigger than what they ride, designed for onshore, and it's like going off the keeper. And I've heard cases of them just saying, I ain't using that, fuck off.
There was a case with a certain high-profile rider that his manager was telling him to use a board who keep it in front of everyone, and he outrightly refused. He was like, I am not going out on that. And the marketing manager, yes, you are. No, I'm not. And they just had this massive row in front of everyone at Ukeep. I can't really name him, but it was.
You have to imagine it's in front of everyone. It's like not just in front of all his team, because like everyone's shooting there. It's in front of all the teams in the whole world, all the marketing managers of the whole world, and they're having this like row on the beach.
It was a great moment to watch. As long as I wasn't involved in it, it was perfect.
There's some people you have to kind of like, don't know what the word is, like manage them. A bit like football manager, isn't it? I'm sure, I know you do that brilliantly, JC. You have to like certain guys, you have to talk to them in the right way, make somebody more
sometimes,
like.
Sometimes some of the superstars of the shoot, they don't want to go out. They kind of, yeah, but I've already done some good stuff, you know. Like, I've got my shots, and you're like, yeah, but the light's better now. You know, can you just go out for like half an hour? Maybe, you know, it's that type of thing. Also on shoots, you know, the first couple of days, everyone's super motivated. They all turn up on time. You know, they work hard, da-di-da. But then some of the guys kind of think, okay, I've done my bit now. You know, the next day I can kind of relax and turn up at, you know, when I feel like it, stuff like that. And that's part of the battle of the shoot, is kind of keep everyone motivated. And like John said, there's certain boards that maybe some guys don't really want to ride. It's kind of not so much fun. And you got to get someone to go on it. Like the Starboard, we used to always have Muzzer, Chris Murray. He'd go out on anything, you know, because he was just like, he's a go-to guy to go out on a go or any sort of free ride board. Yeah, I'll do that. So that was kind of handy to have that guy around, whereas you couldn't really go to Polacal. Can you go out on a, you know, the beginner board or something like that? It's kind of, no, well, I'm the wave guy, you know, I just do the cool stuff. But, you know, after 2 or 3 days on a shoot, if you start asking to people to rock up the beach at 6:30 in the morning, they're kind of, do we have to? You know, it's kind of, people are starting to get tired. They think they've done the job.
Worst for that was always was Whitey. He'd like, when we were doing the shoots in Cape Town, we'd literally maybe have 3 sessions in a day, and it'd be kind of like 8 o'clock at night, absolutely punished, like giving it all day. And he's like, I've got this amazing shot. And then he'd make me put on a wetsuit, rig up a sail, climb onto like this rock in the middle, like with waves breaking over it, just to get this like golden shot with the sunset and the wave breaking. And at the time, you're just like, I just want to kill him. But but yeah,
remember,
sometimes the shots come out really good. But
Ben Saverne was really mean. Back in the day, these two Aussie guys came over, Luke Wormsley and Ty Bodycoat, and we'd had a pretty hard day at the beach, shooting waves all day. And he told them, "Oh yeah, we're going to meet tomorrow at Spreckersville at 6 a.m." And obviously, he had no intention of doing this. These guys went down there at 6 a.m. and Ben was just at home. Well, no one else even knew about it. Ben was home in bed, and we were just getting up having breakfast. And these guys had gone to Spreckersville at 6 for just a stitch up, basically. So if you ever go on a shoot, Lucas, if someone tells you to go to the top of Haleakala at 5 in the morning, kind of maybe check with a few other guys that it's a definite plan.
Yeah. What's the day in a life for a rider?
At a shoot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it changes massively. The best one, like in Maui, it's generally pretty relaxed because you can't go sailing early. Whoever's managing it will be like, okay, tomorrow we're going to try and do this. And depending on what that is, like, you know, you'll be sometimes up, like in Cape Town, you get up really, really early because the sun, to get the good light, you have to basically sail before about 10 o'clock in the morning. And some of the spots are 2 hours away. So quite often we'll wake up at like 5:30, drive quite often to the Cape or to the southern side. Then you'll sail, hopefully get the shots if all goes according to plan. And then look for a second session, maybe with the evening light, and then come back and be punished. And then when you have a day off, there's nowadays more than ever, there's like so many extra things to do, like all these sort of like, you know, something for a video, you need to do this, like, yeah, we need you rigging next to a rock, or loading up the car, or talking this, or describing this, or doing a rigging video, or whatever. So it's like there's always something to do.
Ticking the boxes, you know, you've got to look at what you've got. There might be waves every day that are even getting better and better, but you haven't shot any free ride, and you kind of, at some point, you can't just do 5 minutes of free ride and say that's done. That's probably the best selling piece of equipment. So you kind of, you know, that's just as important. Even beginner stuff is just as important as your best wave shots. You know, obviously most people want to have fun and do the waves, but that other stuff, you know, nowadays you've got foiling, you've got slalom, you've got beginners, and like foil, you know, like a lot of free ride boards have got a foil option. So there's like so much extra stuff to do. Half the companies have got SUP boards. If there's no wind, you might be up at dawn shooting SUP as well. So there's just an endless amount of, yeah. And, you know, and you've got your marketing guy breathing down your neck all the time. Have you got the shot? Have you done this? And then obviously, like say with RRD, they're a board and a sail company. So you haven't just shot the board, you've got to get the right angle of the sail. So that's a whole nother thing to have in your head, is like, oh yeah, I might have got a good shot of the board, or I got a great shot of the sail, but I couldn't see the deck of the board.
We had it actually a few years ago. We had like different release dates of different equipment, and then that was a nightmare. You had to like shoot. Sometimes you had to shoot a board with last year's sail because it was going to be released before the next year's sail, and then you had to shoot it again with next year's sail. Sometimes with like different harnesses and different wetsuits and coordinating all of that. And again, like JC says, ticking all the boxes. You know, you finish it and you go like, no, we haven't got that sail with that board, and we need to, and you have to try and like rush it out.
You think about a company, that's their whole year's future is going into promoting their products with the videos and the photos that come out of that week. Maybe they're hedging most of their investment into that 1 week to get the material they need to make their money to sell, you know, in selling those products.
Do you like that pressure? You enjoy it? Or if I said to you, would you rather do like a big brand shoot or like a trip somewhere? Would be a trip for sure, or you enjoy the kind of like the organisation side of it?
There's obviously a massive pressure to doing a big, like say the Fanatic shoot, which is one of the biggest. When you see the pile of equipment at the beginning, it's like, oh my God, this is huge. You see all the riders turn up the first day, and that, you know, everyone's, you know, they're there to get good pictures. The company wants good pictures, and yet they're kind of relying on you and the video guys to get a killer product at the end. So you're kind of under pressure. But if you've had a few good days where you've oh, I got a really good shot then. And I always come back to Fanatic and say, oh, I got a couple. And that's our little joke line. But if you've had a few good days where you've like had an amazing heli shoot with all the free ride stuff's kind of got a good chunk of that done, a good day in the water at Keeper, a helicopter shoot at Keeper, and you're starting to get the shoot kind of under the belt, then you can kind of start enjoying it. But up until that point, it's a lot of pressure. Like on the way home from Maui, my little tradition is to always go, there's this bar at the airport, and that's got one of Robbie Nash's sails on the roof. I go, barman, give me a pint. They'll fill it up. I drink it down. Another one, please. And I drink like a couple of pints straight down, and just sit at the table and go, thank God for that. But like, it's a satisfying feeling because you've conquered the shoot. You've done the job.
This is something I really, really wanted to know. Obviously, you get all this gear. What do you do with it afterwards? Because you don't give it to the riders, do you? I don't know.
We do a bit of a mix of everything. You're just trying to get rid of it and trying to get rid of it in a productive way as possible. So a lot of the time, if you can give it to riders, it's great. And that'll be like, maybe whatever, they get like 3 boards for the year, and one of their boards that they want is a 80-litre wave board, and you have one there, you give it to them, perfect. The rider's got the board and you've got rid of it. So that's gold. After that, like often you'll try and sell it if there's like shops there. Like in Maui, we had there was an R&D shop, and we'd try and like get rid of as much as possible there. If you got not got too much left, you can bring it all home. But like with the R&D shoot this year, where we had kite, wing, sup, windsurf, foil, in the end, so much stuff. We actually spent like 2 days preparing it all to be shipped back in a container from Cape Town. But there was obviously enough of it to warrant shipping it all back.
Obviously, now with drones coming in, when do you use a helicopter? When do you use a drone? Is it on more the budget, or what's the deal?
I guess it depends on location as well. Like in Hawaii, getting a helicopter for an hour is probably quite a worthwhile investment if you've got all your free ride gear and everything ready to go. Not necessarily need it for the waves, but maybe for the free ride, that 1 hour can be super productive. You can shoot maybe 20, 25 boards, the same amount of sails in that hour of super high quality, getting the decks and all that stuff. But obviously a photographer's got a bunch of lenses, zooms and all sorts of stuff, so you can take loads of different shots at quite high quality. Whereas with a drone, that could take days getting the right shots. And
for me, still, like the drone for video, I think it's right up there with a helicopter. But I think for stills, I don't think you get anywhere near the efficiency of renting a helicopter still for quality.
Obviously, loads of places don't just have a heliport there. If you're south of Cape Town, down at the Cape Point, there's no helicopters around. So obviously the drone comes into its own there.
We had a nightmare. We spent years trying to get a heli, because that's in Maui. That's the gold in Maui, is that you get a helicopter and you rent it for 1 hour and you have the whole thing done. And in Cape Town, we were always missing those free ride shots. And one year we managed to finally get a helicopter. We organised it all for Langebaan. We're like, okay, yeah. We went up there. We rigged like everything like you do for a heli shot. We had 20 boards and sails ready to go. The pilot takes off from Cape Town and he's halfway up, and then we get a call saying like, he can't fly in Langebaan because it's like a nature reserve. So he's going to have to go like down the coast a bit. So we're like, but we have like 20 minutes we've got all the stuff rigged. So we're like, we're going to sail it down. So we all jump on our stuff and we sailed like about 10 kilometers down the coast. In the meantime, we lost everyone. The wind dropped. We ended up like, I ended up on one beach and Roberto was driving in the van to try and meet us. We lost everyone. And then I think the helicopter turned around and gave up in the end. Maui, you can just they take like literally the heliport's about like 500 meters from where you go sailing in Kanaha, right?
Yeah, you literally take off, go over the runway, there's palm trees, and you're at Kanaha. And it's like 2 or 3 minutes transit time to be pretty much shooting straight away. If you were paying per hour for a helicopter's $1,000 an hour, you've only wasted 5 minutes getting there and back. Whereas, for instance, I did a shoot a couple of years ago in New Caledonia, and the helicopter had to fly 20 minutes just to get to the right spot where they wanted to shoot. Another little story on top of this. The night before, the guys, I'm not going to mention the brand or any names, but the guys had loaded up these boards in the back of a van for the shoot. And they'd taken the board bags out of the van in the morning and gone on boats all the way to this remote island in New Caledonia. But they didn't know some other guys had been fiddling around in the van before and rearranged all the bags. So when they got to this island, which the helicopter's due to arrive in like 40 minutes time, instead of having the luxury of just getting everything ready, they opened the zips of the board bags, and basically all the wrong boards were in the bags. They just had white test boards for the shoot, and I was already on my way in the helicopter. So it was a complete, utter disaster. The boat had to rush back to the mainland, change for the right board bags, and I was kind of arriving as the boat returned with the right gear. Nothing was ready, and I'm up in this helicopter flying around going, what in the hell is going on? You can see these guys scampering around on the beach trying to rig it all up.
Skye, where would you say is your favourite place to shoot? Because you've sort of migrated to Cape Town already, haven't they?
I think, I don't know, they've all got their pluses and negatives. I think the best couple of shoots I ever did were we had a couple with F2 that were the one on the Itoma boat was amazing. I don't know if you know about the Itoma boat. It's like a catamaran set up for windsurf gear, and we had 10 guys, some real characters on there. We had Finian, Peter Bolwater, Tonky, JC was shooting it,
Nina.
And Nina was on there, and Karen and Patrick as well, with the kind of the organisers with Alex. I don't know. It's just a really good experience because you just sort of go on this boat and just bob around Cape Verde Islands, going from island to island. Yeah, that was pretty epic. The Oz trip was really good the year after. Lots of driving and just good crack.
The first day of the Oz trip, they basically asked us, all the riders, to rig the gear on this grass in Perth somewhere. And we took a load of photos of that. And then they said, we're going to a beer factory. And we all went to this beer factory, and we basically made 5 barrels of our own beer concoction that was due to be mature in 2 weeks' time, which is when the shoot ended. So we went off on the shoot for 2 weeks, all over up to Nalu, Margaret River, all over the place. And then on the last day of the shoot, we came back to Perth to the beer factory. We picked up our 5 barrels of beer, and then we had a party with the beer that we'd brewed the first day. And that was kind of quite a nice way to finish it. I don't know if you remember that, Skye boy.
I don't remember the party, because that party, I got so messed up. I was unconscious in the back of the car. That's why I remember that party.
We rented out 5, I think it was 5 camper vans and a couple of cars. And basically we could just sleep where we wanted every night. And towards the end of the shoot, one of the camper vans crashed into a cow.
It's on the way to Nalu, wasn't it? We'd driven literally, I don't know, we'd driven 10 hours or something. I don't know how you crash into a cow. They're the most stationary objects you'll ever crash into, isn't it? But
yeah, the cow walks off into a field perfectly fine, and this camper van was destroyed. So basically they had to move all their gear into all the other camper vans, and it became a bit clustered, didn't it? But we got through it in the end.
Yeah. The best, when we were driving back, do you remember the beer heist, JC?
Yeah, I was just thinking of that, actually, yeah.
We were driving back, we'd shot in Esperance, and we were heading back to Perth, which I think is about a 10-hour drive, something like 600 miles or something like that. And we're leaving off at night, and as you do in Australia, if you've got a long drive, you get a big carton of beer for your trip. So we both got a carton for each car, and we set off. And then after an hour and a half, I remember you were in the car in front, and we were on the car behind.
I was in the rear car.
You're in the rear car, are you? Okay. We start. I was in the front car, and I was in a different car from you. So anyway, like we're driving along, and they start flashing, waving us in. So we pull in at a lay-by, and then JC comes out, and he's like, guys, I've got this really good idea for a shot. Like, I need you all lined up with your backs to the car, with the headlights on you, taking a piss. Like, I think it'll be amazing. Yeah. So we're like, okay, yeah, cool. So we're all there, and we're like lining it all up, and we're all stood there. Oh, wait. So no, like, look that way. It'll be really good with the lights behind you. Anyway, we do this stupid shoot, and I was just like, okay, whatever. I hope that comes out a good shot. And we get back in the car, and like they're just like wheels spinning off and disappear into the distance. We're like, that's a bit weird, whatever. We get back in the car. It's like, all right, pass me a beer. We look in the back. The crate's gone. The bastards had run out beer in their car, orchestrated the whole plot, and just basically robbed us while we had our backs turned getting a photo.
That was my idea. That was.
I'm sure it was. It had your name written all over it.
We overtook them on the highway with the car window open. We were holding their crate in front of them. Oh dear.
So we normally finish with a quick fire round. So just sort of quick answer.
I'm terrible at this. My brain's really slow.
He's had half a bottle of whiskey and 3 beers.
No, yeah, with 3 beers, yeah, but yeah.
All right, quick fire round. Winter or summer?
I think summer, because I don't really have a winter anymore.
I like autumn.
If I was in the UK, it'd be definitely autumn and winter, but I don't really have that now. So,
Skyboy, one board, one sail for the rest of your life.
85 litre, the new wave coat that's coming out, with probably a 5.0. I think a 5.0, I can do anything with it.
And JC, one camera for the rest of your life.
I wouldn't mind the new 1DX Mark III. I think it's £6,500.
Expensive. If you could freeze a year in your life, which year would that be?
Probably right up till just before the coronavirus hit. Everything was going fine. I was quite happy with the way things are going. Had some jobs lined up. I got a big calendar on the wall with all these bookings. Everything dropped out, and now I've been scribbling them out each week. So I'd say up till about mid-March wasn't too bad.
Skyboy?
In me, I'm not exactly sure what year it'd be, but like I think 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. Like everything was just like exploding, and everything was coming together, and that's a cool feeling. It's been downhill ever since.
If you weren't a windsurfer, or if you weren't a windsurf photographer, what would you be?
I was supposed to be studying computer science, so I'll be some like nerdy computer dude, I think.
That's something I'm trying to figure out at the moment. I just don't know what's going to happen in the next few years, whether I can travel or, I just suddenly have this big question mark ahead, same as everyone else. I have been thinking about what can I do? Not really sure where I'm going to go. Probably some sort of driving, I'd imagine.
Delivery driver.
Could be down to that.
You'll be all right, JC, I'm sure.
And to sort of finish it off, what's your life motto, or if you don't, what motivates you in life?
If there's a shot to be taken, just shoot it without asking any questions or thinking about it. Because if you take your time and think, oh, maybe I should ask that person or whatever, that moment goes. So just get the shot and then worry about it later.
Skyboy still thinking?
Yeah, no, for me, it's always, I don't know the exact way of saying it, but like always like try and have a good work ethic, but always make sure you're having fun along with it. And if you're not, then working's not much point. So there's probably a better way of saying it than that, but
yeah, I guess do what you love rather than do what makes.
Yeah, no, I think like work hard, but have fun doing it.
Sounds good.
Kind of the idea of a photo shoot.
Yeah, it is, because as soon as you stop having fun in something like a photo shoot, it just becomes like an absolute ball ache.
Yeah. Oh no, brilliant guys. Thanks very much. That's been John Skye, John Carter, and me, Lucas Meldrum. See you next time.
Cool. See ya.
Bye. Yeah, so next time I expect you to get Dunkerbeck and Nash together for the third That Windsurf podcast.
That's tricky. That got to get a manager and all that to get that sorted. But
Nah, you can do
we'll
it.
try. We'll try.
Yeah, you can do it for sure.